All right, thank y'all. Hope y'all can hear me good. I know it's the last presentation of the day, but I have 30 minutes to discuss a whole industry. I've been thinking I was up all night last night wondering how could I do this? Like, holy guacamole, what have I signed up for? So we're gonna go super fast today. It's not gonna feel that way in the beginning because I'm gonna kind of camp on 2 slides. Some of this y'all may or may not know, but I don't wanna just rush over it because I think it's important because midstream is an area that a lot of people don't understand. And I get a lot of questions on it. And so today we're going to do a high-level overview of that, kind of talk about what midstream, what we do. We're going to discuss as far as why it's important in the value chain of the oil and gas. We think about it from actually wellhead as far as the end user consumption. And then we're going to talk a little bit about who are we responsible for? Who are we accountable to as far as when we operate and build and design our facilities? And then lastly, kind of what goes into in building a new natural gas facility, whether that's a compressor station or a plant, whatever that may be, kind of try to bring it all together. It'll go much faster because I'm going to show a lot of pictures of as far as facilities under construction and kind of the steps and processes that we go through. So what is midstream? Let's dive into this. The easiest way that I can describe what midstream is that we do not do any drilling. And we don't deliver it to your house, and we don't deliver a final product, but we do everything else in between. That's what midstream does. And when you think about that, it's kind of interesting is just how much people do not understand or know about this. Because the midstream, when they're successful as far as drilling a well, we will lay gathering to that facility. We'll bring that gas in, and then we're going to go through and we're going to process it. And then it's our job to market that as far as to downstream. And as far as it being as critical it is, it's probably the least known and least understood piece of the oil and gas value stream. So typically when people talk about the value stream, we kind of take it into 4 areas. There's upstream, midstream, transportation, and there's the downstream segment. So just for a high level orientation, we're going to kind of review these areas real quick, and then kind of highlight and kind of hang out in the midstream area for a little bit. So on the upstream side, we kind of know this as E&P or exploration and production, and for our side, midstream companies, we usually refer to them as producers. These are the folks that are our customers. We provide a service to them every day so they can move their wellhead product, in this case, natural gas, from the wellhead to the markets. And so many times, as far as when they're out there drilling for oil, which is their primary thing they're drilling for, natural gas just comes up in association with that. And they have to do something with it. And if they can't do anything with it, then it actually limits their production capabilities. So if we're not there to move the natural gas, they cannot move as much oil as they want to. So again, it points back to we're a critical function in the value chain. E&P companies, as they're going out and they're developing as far as in fields, typically they partner with midstream. They're saying, hey, we're going to go into this area, we're going to drill X number of wells, can you provide that service to us in that area? And so that's what we typically tend to do, and we work with them as far as on what their production curves and how that's going to look in order to pull that raw natural gas. Now, once they have given us a drilling plan, they're out drilling and they're being successful, this is where midstream steps in. Here's our first step. It's the gathering phase. So as they're successful, we're going to go out and we're going to lay pipeline. It's going to be of various sizes, 2-inch, maybe 16-inch. It depends on how the successful the well is going to be and how much gas is going to be flowing as far as what we design and what we go get. And we're going to go out there and we're going to set a meter house so we can measure the production that's coming our way, and we're going to bring that on into our system. And we're going to start transporting that basically through a network of pipes to a central processing location. And in that central processing location, it may be several hundred miles away. Sometimes these gathering systems can be as many as 1,000 miles and maybe support up to a couple hundred wells. In Weld County, for DCP Midstream that I support, we actually have over 4,000 miles of pipe. We have over 3,000 wells that we service every day. We move 1.1 billion cubic feet of gas a day, just my company. So we have a large infrastructure and a large service that we provide to our producers in the area. Once we get this here as far as on the gathering system, as we design these things, they're usually very unique, but they typically always kind of fall into 3 categories as we go through and do this. The first one is usually you go out and you go into a trunk line. So you're just going to lay a very large line into an area. You're going to have a lot of laterals coming off that to hook the various wells in the area that the producer is doing their drilling. Another method, maybe you do a big loop. Kind of think of it as a big circle. You may go and engulf a place to where you can connect those wells and give you some operational latitude to move gas left and right, east and west, north, south, as you need to, and how it may fit into your gathering system that for that service you're providing to that producer. The other way, which is kind of a little bit more traditional, kind of looks like a spider web. You have a lot of main line laterals leaving a central point, in this case being the plant, that goes out and then kind of leaves out and connects all the wells. So there's a lot of different types and styles of designs that go into when we're gathering systems, each of them making economic benefit as far as for how we're going to operate as well as providing that service to that producer and what that looks like. Now that raw gas is being gathered and transported, I feel like I'm getting feedback. It's also it's being pushed towards a processing facility. It's a plant. And usually what we do, we're going to have to go through, we're going to have to compress that gas at some point, which means we're going to take it into our facility, a compression facility at one pressure. We're going to go through a process and we're going to move that pressure way up, usually a couple hundred pounds, and push it on down the line. For those of y'all that are going on the tour today, this is what you're actually going to see. You're going to see raw natural gas coming in from the well and the pipelines. You're going to see that you're going to tour this compressor station, and then you're going to see it being delivered at a higher pressure into another line. So it keeps going down, making its path toward the plant. Once it gets to the plant, there's usually a two-step process that kind of happens. And the most simplistic thing, what we have to do is we have to condition and treat the gas, and then we're going to split it. It's a pretty simple process. A lot of times people think midstream is like some big refinery. We're not doing any mixing of chemicals. We're not doing anything secret sauce going on or anything like that. It is pretty much just a straight pressures and temperatures as we're basically distilling this gas to break it out into its different components. So with that, the first thing is when that raw gas comes into the well, from the wellhead into our plant, it's not coming in as a product that is pipeline ready. So what we have to do is go through and actually remove several contaminants as far as from the gas, impurities that we need to do, whether it's excess water, hydrogen sulfide, carbon dioxide, and your nitrogen. We got to pull those either out of the stream or we have to reduce it to a point in which we can actually have pipeline quality spec gas as we continue to ship it to the downstream marketplace. Once the plant has done this on the front side of the plant, now it's time to split it. And when we split it, we usually take there's two streams that come out. You'll hear referred to as residue, typically methane. And then the other thing that you'll hear referred to, you've been hearing a lot of this today, is around NGLs or natural gas liquids. The natural gas liquids for us, when we typically break it out in the first step, is all those ethanes, butanes, protanes, pentanes, and higher that we actually group together that go down one marketplace. Each of these products have different values, different markets that we ship to, and as far as they have different outcomes as far as in the products, as far as how they end up. Now, once we've done this piece here, now is where it gets a little tricky because the definition of midstream now starts to morph depending on who you're talking to. So if you're talking to some companies in some parts of the area, they may say your pipeline transportation takeaway from the plant is part of midstream. That's because some midstream companies actually own their own pipeline transportation to deliver it to a midstream or to a downstream market. Others do not have that. They actually partner with a pipeline company who may take it away on their behalf. They're actually selling the product at that point, and the pipeline's taking the risk, and they're going to market with it downstream. Either way, the product is going downstream as far as on that. It may take one more stop. Depending on the area you are, you may stop off at a storage site. A lot of these times, for at least on the residue side, that may be an underground cavern. You saw charts earlier about where storage is nationally and those type of things. Those are underground caverns where we may actually put gas as far as in the summertime when there's not always a large demand for it, and they're preparing for the winters to kind of flatten and kind of hedge prices as we go through the year. So they may the natural gas may stop off at that point. But at the same time, that may be associated with midstream and it may not be, just depends on who owns it. So sometimes that transportation piece is broken out separate, and sometimes it's considered part of midstream. So just be aware of that depending on who you may be talking to as far as in industry. The last thing I kind of want to talk about is just that downstream segment. So once it gets downstream, I guess I could forward my slide here. There we go. Sorry about that. I'm sitting here talking and I didn't realize I had this up. On this here, as it gets downstream from the residue side, you can see where it goes to different utilities, industrials, or residential use. Or it goes on the NGL side. It's coming down on the back side here, going to refineries and doing other things as far as for other products. Now, what I want to point out is kind of camp out here on this one here and just kind of re-hit this again. It was kind of mentioned a little bit earlier today as far as what really is the value of natural gas. Because I don't think it's always really appreciated for what it is. Most people, when you say, hey, I use natural gas, you're going to say, hey, it's used to heat my homes, and I use it used to cook or to have a barbecue. And that's kind of where it stops. And yet it does so much more than that as far as what it's used for. So what you see here is that, in the summertime, which we're all waiting for and ready to get out and do more barbecues and all those type of things, but I can tell you right now, by July and August, we'll all be complaining about the heat, and we'll be cranking our air conditioners, not only us, but everybody else in the nation. And as you see there, over 30% of the nation's electric power comes from natural gas. As we get into the summer months, it actually even increases more than that. And so there's a huge pull on that these days, and we actually see the market react to that, where we used to have a lot of gas go into storage. You don't have a lot of gas going in there because of the heat. And when we have hotter summers, we actually don't always replace our storage as fast as we should. The other thing I just want to kind of point out is natural gas is an ingredient to use to make a lot of other things. We know that it makes fertilizers, antifreeze, plastics, pharmaceuticals. People aren't aware. It's in the pharmaceuticals and maybe in the medicines that you may be taking right now as an ingredient as far as on that. Electronics, rubber, and then one of my favorites is fabrics. If you really think about this here on the fabrics, it's kind of amazing that we can take natural gas, we can process and knock out the ethane, you take it to the refiners and other scientists do all sorts of other things, and it starts becoming polyethylene and then it becomes polyester. And then you wear it. That always just blows my mind because people don't think about, if you're wearing anything poly, it's probably coming from the hydrocarbon molecule. And we just don't always realize that. So I'll say this here is that natural gas, as far as on the industrial side at the top, obviously it helps with a lot of other heating things around steel, glass, cement, bricks, other commodities as far as that it does. I think the last thing to say as far as on this here on the commodity price is that I think we can all agree that natural gas is something that we use every day and we don't even realize it. And yet here we have a whole industry that most people don't even understand or recognize as far as what that is. And I go off that because as I'm out in public speaking venues or out in front of the public, there's just no information. They're like, what do you do? Again, they go back to like midstream must be something like what you see on TV, these big chemical refineries on the Gulf Coast or something, and it's nothing like that whatsoever. I want to transition now as far as kind of talk through a couple of things as far as from a regulatory perspective, as far as who we are accountable for in the midstream. As we're out building facilities and as we're out talking to people, a lot of folks who are like, who are you accountable for? Who regulates? What rules do you follow? And there's not a lot of knowledge on that. So what I'm about to kind of start here, I'm going to start here with safety because if you're around oil and gas industry enough, you know that's kind of job number one. We take great pride in protecting our people and being sure they come to work safely and they go home safely. And so obviously you got OSHA and DOT regulations up there about how we operate every day, including how we're doing any constructions or builds, we are responsible to them. And I'll tell you right now, I'll just brag on my company, DCP Midstream. We were just awarded on Monday the first place prize as far as being the safest midstream company in North America. That's a tier 1 that has over 1 million work hours a year. So that was a big deal. Thank y'all. I think sometimes the industry takes a bad rap on safety because they see one incident and then it gets blown out of the media a lot of times. But yet, you look at our industry, we're a very, very safe industry. Now that record is not zero where we want it to be and we're continuing to try that. but it's something that we are a safe industry and we take that seriously. The other thing I want to kind of put a plug in here is at the very bottom. It may get hit on tomorrow in one of the conferences when I was kind of looking through the agenda for tomorrow, but it's around 811. We continually, as an industry, trying to get out there from a safety perspective to educate people on 811. You would be surprised how many people do not know this. And I hear some chuckles and see some of that. I have been in the Weld County area now for 3 years. I've been out on site of at least 6 line strikes. And every time I go out there, they're like, I didn't know. I didn't know. And we're not talking about always hitting like little bitty lines. Sometimes they're hitting big lines. And we've been fortunate it hasn't been more severe than what it was. But the 811 is a big thing as far as where we try to get out there and educate the publics, whether it's our neighbors, it's businesses, it's governments, and as far as anybody where we operate in those communities that we operate in. It is key to us that as far as whether you're doing new road construction, road repairs, you're putting utilities, new fiber optics, whatever it may be, neighbors putting in a new fence, adding on to homes. You may have farmers out there doing ditch work or new drainage work or irrigation work versus just the normal turning of the dirt. They need to be calling 811 because when you think about Weld County alone, where we have over 4,000 miles just of DCP pipe, that's not even counting what other midstream companies have. That's a lot of pipe out there that you got to be sure you're looking out for as you're working. So we really make that a big deal because what you don't want to do is strike something like that. This is obviously a new line lay, and obviously we try to keep these out of the, on the perimeters of out of the public community and so forth. But there's times where we come up next to roads and other things that you just got to be aware of. And sometimes contractors and the folks that do business are not always aware of that. Now I want to transition here as far as kind of keep going, like who else are we kind of accountable to? Who else do we kind of, from a rules and regulations perspective? And I'm going to stop right here. This is very important you hear this. This is not all the agencies that we report to. I got 3 slides. I just kept them because they're kind of, we all kind of can associate with them here as far as in the room. But there are a lot of agencies that we are accountable to. Even on the 3 agencies I'm going to show here, this is not all their rules. I've just kind of pulled some just to kind of get you a feel, an awareness, and a sampling of what's going on. Obviously, we start with the federal level EPA. You can see here that we have everything from air and water to what we do from a waste perspective as far as how we have to be in compliance with. I'm not going to go into these. I'm not going to bore you with that. First of all, my knowledge is not deep on that. And second of all, I got whole teams of people that know this much more than I do as far as that. But again, it's just for an awareness. You come closer to home, you got the CDPHE as far as what we have to do here. Again, looking at construction permits and operating permits and what we have to do there. When we're going through this, we have to go through and actually give a lot of information when we're building a new facility. We'll talk a little bit about that. And that we have to go through and say, here's our plant design. Here's the equipment we're going to use. Here's the parameters as far as how we're going to operate that equipment. By the way, here's the emissions profile of that equipment. And they take all that into account as they're reviewing and looking to award us permits. Going to the next one, the COGCC. Anytime, and we don't like to have it, but anytime that we have any type of leak as far as anything as far as in our asset, we have to report it to this agency. They then kind of look over our shoulders to be sure that we're repairing, remediating as necessary, and that things are proper and done in a timely manner, and that they're done correctly. So these are just some things that we have to go through and kind of continue to look for. Just general activities, even above and beyond what we're doing from an environmental perspective, we have our own internal teams that help us to be sure that we're compliant. And if you look here, what you see as far as we do a lot of daily environmental monitoring and inspections. We're walking around. We have plant operators that are out taking readings and instrument readings to be sure that they can, things are operating within the parameters as it was designed. We're taking automated information in as well, running it through calculations to be sure that we're in parameters as well. We actually do a lot of, go down to the bottom, we do a lot of self-internal audits. When we find things that we internally, when we do our self-audits that are not correct or we're out of compliance, we actually have to self-report. And that's something that we have to do. And as a good operator, it's something that we do. And it can be painful sometimes, like, oops, we made a mistake, and yep, we got to turn ourselves in for that. In addition to that, we also have supporting agencies as far as the different agencies that hold our permits. They will come out and do planned and surprise unplanned visits as well to be sure that we are in compliance in what we're doing there. Going to go here as far as to this slide. I'm kind of going to take a little bit of a turn here. I'm going to have to kind of pick up the speed. So here we go. We're going to do 26 slides in 10 minutes. What I want to do, we can do this, man, trust me. I got this. So here we go. So I want to pause because this here, I want y'all to kind of think about this neighborhood engagement. As Midstream, you think about the environment in Colorado, it has changed a lot in the last 3 years. It's not just where we can say we want to go build or drill or whatever, we get what we want. That is not the environment that we are in. And so we find ourselves out working with the community a lot more. Before I get there though, there's many in this room, I saw the hands go up earlier, maybe 50% of this room right now is non-industry, which means you may be working with a midstream company that's coming and bringing you a submittal form as far as for you to review. There's some first responders in this room. You may be reviewing an emergency response plan. You may be a commissioner who's reviewing a USR or a land use plan. There's lots of things that we have to go through in order to build a plant. And what I want to know is that process is a long process for midstream. You think about E&P or producers, they can be on a pad on and off in 6 months, sometimes 9 months, depending on how many wells they're drilling, and they're gone. For us, that's not the case. But we're going to sink in capital. We're sinking in hundreds of millions of dollars. We've got to be sure that it's right. And by the way, it's going to take us at minimum 18 months if it's happy path. Like everything goes right and it's a really simple project. But more likely it's going to take us 2+ years to get through the whole process. And that process kind of looks like this. Hey, first of all, we're working with our producers. Here's our drilling profiles. And there's got to be a commercial viable reason that they can make money and we can make money and we can go do this project. Then it moves from there. It's like, okay, now that we got a commercial viable product, what's the size of that facility going to be? Where are we going to locate it? Do we have land there? Can we even get land in the area that they're drilling as far as on that? You look at that, then what's the hydraulics of the gas? Can I get the gas there from a pipeline perspective? Then that's all the upstream. Can I take that? And then I got to turn downstream and look, do I have the pipelines to take it away? Are they all full? If they're full, there's no sense of building a plant because they have nowhere to take the gas into the pipeline, right? So if they're full, then I got to work with another, either my own company and or another company to partner with to build a pipeline to get it to market. Once I get all that done, then I got to get engineers now go design and build the plant. And we're going to go through all this stuff, and we're looking for, we got to be within building codes and engineering APIs and look at all the safety things that we put into these facilities when we build them. And then once you get that, we take a breath and go, now we got to submit to the agencies. And now we're going to put in all of our paperwork for that, and that's going to go through their processes. Now we follow their processes to get to an end. All of that to hopefully get to a point to where we get through all the environmental agencies, everything. We're getting to the commissioners, getting a USR permit, and we got to do all that before we ever build a plant or even turn a speck of dirt. But somewhere in that process, different midstream companies do this. We start reaching out to our neighbors. We start, hey, we're about to build a facility in this area. We have open houses. We welcome them in. We show them what we're going to do. We talk to them about our plans. We sit down. We may have follow-up meetings with them in their homes, addressing their concerns and what that may look like with regular follow-up meetings and cadence with the group out there, even giving them tours at times. Kind of building, though, what we always hear consistently is that, hey, can you do something about the sound and can you do something about the lights? We're okay with you building it, but can you address these two things? These are the things that we hear come up over and over again as we do our community involvements. So with that, we sit there and look at the sound mitigation. What can we do? Can we put things in buildings as far as to knock the sound down? And what does that look like? When we design our lights, can we have downcasting LEDs? You can see kind of how the difference of that looks like. We've even gone as far as adopting a philosophy called dark skies, which means at night, we don't turn the lights on. If you were to drive by, you may not even know there's a plant there unless you see the light in the control room on. We will turn the lights on if we have to go out in the plant and do something, but outside that, we're operating dark skies. Here's a sample, a picture of a building. You look on the outside just like a normal tin building, but it's not. Inside, it's got a lot of special insulation that kind of dampens and captures the sound, keeps the sound down. As far as on that, where we have all of our engines and compressors in that building right there. Look at the next thing here. These next two slides are kind of show, these are the traditional models as far as what we do, as far as when we build. And you see two things here. You can see the lights up on the towers, which you can see from a long way away. And notice this right here. See these lights, how they're angled at 45 degrees? That's the old school. That's what they don't want to have, because that's what's shining into their homes when they're trying to watch TV at night. So we're trying to address that. Here you can see where we have more of the broadcast lights as far as here, where you can see them hitting on the camera as far as on that. Again, this is stuff that we're moving away from. So say we're in construction phase now. This is where we're going to blitz, so run with me here. We're going to go through this here. You look at all the different phases that we have. With this here, obviously, we're going to have grading. Grading can take anywhere between 4 to 8, 10 weeks, depending on how much grading we have to do, soil type, all that type of stuff, as far as getting through that. Then you move into your foundations. Here you can see screw foundations as far as here, where we're going to be putting on pipe racks. You got slab foundations coming on as far as for big, heavy equipment that's going to be put in there. And so that's your next phase that you're going through that. Again, more foundation work as far as from the screw piles. These here actually not being cement, but more from a pipe. Then you start erecting the pipe racks around there. You start laying your pipe in there as far as what it's going to look like. You start connecting the large vessels. As far as on that, you can see at the bottom end where the pipe racks here, and you got the screw piles as far as what we added onto there. Continue to build on this here. Again, more pipe rack shots as far as on that. And then we get into this point here. Now, this is the new facility. This is not even a year old. This is our Crossroads facility we just built last year to support a plant we just brought online. The big thing here is obviously all this here is all the compression, everything is internal in the building. And you wouldn't even know if you were walking by as far as what's going on there. We'd be able to get it that quiet as a greenfield location. Also, notice the angle of the lights. LEDs downcast, never on at night. So that simple just changing the angle of the lights is a big deal to our communities. And so we've listened, as have other midstream companies listened as we're building new facilities. Obviously, then we start bringing in the big slug catchers. Looking as far as that, sometimes we have special equipment because these things are so large as far as getting road permits, as far as when we bring them in, trying to get these offloaded and get them in right positions. Again, more as far as heavy equipment here, cooling fans are being set as far as on this. And this here is an active construction site. This is what we refer to as our OConnor 2. It's right outside of LaSalle, Colorado. We hope this plant will be moving. It's a new 200 a day plant. That's a 200 million a day plant, I should say. And this is a shot just as of last week as far as where we are. You can see a lot of the pipe is in, the vessels are in. You can see the buildings in the background. A lot of electrical and instrumentation is what's going on right now as far as to try to get this facility online as far as in the June timeframe. From an aerial view, you see here as far as the plant, this is actually two plants right here. This is the old plant here, and then you got the new one kind of starting right here. And you kind of got to get a feel for the size of what a plant looks like. As you can see, it's a massive commitment when we build a facility from a midstream perspective. The other thing I kind of want to just notice here is this wall. It's kind of a big thing kind of going around as far as, hey, when you're building these facilities, can you soften the blow for what it looks like in our neighborhood? And so what we've done is we've been able to actually build these walls. They kind of serve about three purposes. One is, yeah, there's security. Two, they do some sound abatement for us as well. And three is, these walls, when we build them, they're decorative. So they're not just like a gray, doesn't look like a prison wall or anything. It's decorative as far as it kind of looks like a little bit of a castle stone wall that you can kind of walk by and look. So the neighbors have actually complimented us as far as on that and for doing that. That made us no money doing that, just so you know. This is something about working with our neighbors and being a good neighbor out there as far as on what we're doing. In addition, can y'all see the plan on this in this picture here? It's kind of really broken up. So here we've gone through and done a berm shot, or we built berms through here and put landscaping, and there's the plant back there. You can hardly see it as far as from that angle. So where terrain allows this and the natural topography allows, we can actually do these things to actually help, again, soften the blow and kind of hide our facility so it's not as offensive as far as being up front. And then you get to see some additional landscaping as far as there. You can tell this is the old facility because of the angle of the lights there as well. So last two slides. See, I did it. Last two slides. We talk about a lot about automation and what's going on. And this here, as far as when we build a facility and we get it up and running, obviously there's a team of people that are employed there, they work there. These facilities run 24/7. They're always running. And then given the size of these facilities and the automation that's there today, we have a tremendous amount of automation, as you can see here in this picture. You can see back here in the background, we're looking at the tower. You can see what's going on with compressors. And I can just know that because I know the plant here. And then you obviously got a lot of other screens. There's like 8 screens this individual right here is looking at to control that whole plant from that one location right there. Anything that's going on, he needs to dispatch somebody on, we can see it. But you know what, it gets better because we're even taking the next step. And many companies are doing this as well. We call ours the Integrated Collaboration Center, ICC. Some people call it the Integrated Operations Center. And basically what this is that this is where we've been able to pull a lot of data in, as well as teams where we have other technicians, engineers in this room, where we're not just watching that plant and looking over the shoulder of that operator, but we're looking at it all. We see what's going on at the wellhead. We know what the pressures are on the pipeline. We know if our fuel compression is up or down and what's going on, the discharge pressure, suction pressures, we know all of that. It allows us to be sure we're getting the gas to the plant. Is the plant running most effectively as far as on that? And then not only that, we know what's going on downstream. Is the takeaway pipelines, are they running well? And if there's any disruption anywhere in the value stream, we can adjust, providing a very consistent service to our producers so they can always move as much gas as they can so they can keep the oil flowing. So I say that midstream is a critical part of the value chain. And I know I just blitzed through a ton of that right there, and I know I'm long. But as you go out on the tour today, you cannot underestimate this industry and the importance of it and the service that we provide both upstream and downstream. And for those going on the tour, I hope you see a really good thing. Ask a lot of questions. I think I'm out of time. I will be around on the tour and as well as later this evening if you have any other further questions for me.